Woman, you are a valuable creation, wonderfully and fearfully made. Women have the power to monetize beauty the same way that Sarah did. Women were strong enough and seducing enough to lead man away from God. She was also powerful enough to lead the angels away from God. Still, God kept creating beautiful women, so he doesn't care that you're beautiful. God created women as helpmates for men. They come from men as God's second creation. Women were created differently from men and were not regarded as entities that were supposed to work. In exchange for not working, they are supposed to follow a code of conduct so that they don't have to, and virginity was part of that. The intention was for men to be cared for by men. Marriage was more about financial security than about love. We still do not see men declaring to love their wives, even though we know that men usually do love their wives. But we do see that there are times that men don't love their wives, such as Deuteronomy chapter 21. So there is a law that has, or this is the entire book of Deuteronomy, Moses is talking, and so he's giving the ordinance on if a man has two wives, but he hates one of them, that if the one that he hates bore his first son, he's still supposed to receive the inheritance. You're not supposed to interfere with the inheritance line just because you hate the woman that you had the child with. So that's something that happened. We also see in Genesis chapter 29, verse 31. The Lord saw that Leah was hated. In this situation, he's the twin, Esau and Jacob. Jacob deceived his brother out of his birthright, and his parents advised him to run to their relative Laban's home because Esau was angry enough with Jacob to kill him. When Jacob arrived there, he fell in love with the daughter Rachel, but Uncle Laban did the old switcheroo. I didn't want to say it, but I had to say it. So he tricked Jacob into marrying his older daughter, Leah, first. So after they've been married, then he says, well, you have to work for 7 more years if you want to marry Rachel. And Jacob hated Leah because he didn't want to marry her. He was in a situation that was unfair. So even though the situation is a little bit different, marriages where men hate the wife, it's happened twice, or it's happened once for sure, and Moses has to give a law for it or address it when he's talking to Israel. So this has to be occurring enough times for a law to have to address it. The emotions of men do not seem to affect their interactions with us. Probably one, because they're stronger than us. So if we get to yapping, he can just sling you because they're bigger than us. So they don't have to necessarily like us or feel intimidated by us. Secondly, sex. When we look at Deuteronomy chapter 27, there are a small list of there's like a small list of sexual sins, all directed at men. Because again, like I'm saying, this was happening enough times for Moses to have to address it. And this is the second time that Moses has addressed this. The first time was because by the time we get to Deuteronomy, this is the second generation of Israel out of Egypt. So these are the children of the Israelites who witnessed the plagues and who crossed the Red Sea with Moses. So Deuteronomy is pretty important because he's talking to them about what happened before they were old enough to have their own uh, consciousness to understand the world because they were children or not conceived yet. So Deuteronomy chapter 27 is the small list of sexual laws, but when we go to Leviticus, he was talking to their parents. And we go to 15:24. This is about running that red light. Man should not be sexually active with a woman who has her cycle going. So that has to be addressed because it had to be happening for it to be a law. Then we look at Leviticus chapter 18. And Leviticus chapter 18 is a list of sexual sins that God is commanding Moses to tell Israel. Now, we're seeing at the end that the reason why this is being addressed is because this is what the people in Canaan were doing, and it was causing the land to be unclean. So, again, these laws are all being directed at the men, not the women. Bestiality in 18, verse 23. No woman shall give herself to an animal. That's the only time a woman is specifically addressed. So it kind of seems like this situation, it just seems like it's directed at if a woman is being led by a man to do this. But I could be reading into that because we can look at it right here. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 23. You can decide for yourself. That's honestly why you need more than one person to read, because one person can have a interpretation that really needs some assistance or needs some discussion. I acknowledge that, but this is until I find my tribe. Then I know this is about a fictional character, but I just want you to pay attention as a woman, okay? Cinderella. Cinderella is my absolute favorite fairy tale of all time. Brandy was Black Cinderella. Well, I hate saying the Black version because it's like growing up, okay, I was born in 89, so I really am what you would call a 90s kid. I know some people say they're a 90s child, but you were born in like 82. I don't really think that counts, in my opinion, but whatever. I was born in 89, so my first year was 1990. I went through life seeing the Black girl kind of be the less attractive version, the less attractive sidekick. No one knew how to do her hair. Like, it was always disappointing being the Black girl, and like you go to see something and it's like, oh, they didn't put her in pink, they put her in blue, they put her in purple. It's my favorite color is pink. How come she can't wear pink too? There's so many versions of pink, and every type of girl looks good in pink, no matter what skin tone she is or how her hair looks. It all looks good in pink. So it just makes me like, the Barbie can never have pink. It always has to be the white Barbie with pink. Like, but anyway, that's a whole side tangent. Cinderella was a beautiful girl without a proper family structure. The first thing that happened to her, she was deprived financially because her father died. It was her last remaining family member that really cared about her. So her stepmother and her stepsisters abused her, bullied her emotionally and physically, and then they isolated her and ignored her, deprived her visibility. So because they couldn't ruin her beauty with hardship, they ruined her visibility so that a man couldn't find her. This behavior enacted by women, because that's another thing you need to see. It was women that was doing this behavior. It wasn't a man, it was a woman. And this is not in the Bible. This is about Cinderella, but I just want to point this out, okay? So because they They were trying to ruin her mentally since they couldn't ruin her beauty, making her dress in rags, making her sleep downstairs, making her clean all the time, and it didn't make her less beautiful. So they had to try to ruin her on the inside. They did this through abuse. They intended to control her by hiding her when the prince came to their home. The other thing you should get out of this, her own people that should have looked out for her spent their lives trying to sabotage her. The fairy godmother, an entity that did not have the authority to act to really help her, but she couldn't act in the permanent physical world, but she placed Cinderella in a position to be viewed by the prince. A woman. So even though a woman abused her, it was a woman that also helped her, even though she didn't have the ability to affect her as much as the women who were able to oppress her. When we look at Sarah, Genesis chapter 12, so she was able to monetize off of her beauty. Okay, so they gave her sheep, oxen, male donkeys. When we look at the beginning, we don't really see them being wealthy to that extent, right? It's not until they get to Egypt and the Pharaoh sees her that they gave her all of this stuff. And when you look at the next chapter, Genesis chapter 13, when they went back to where they were living, the land couldn't support them because of all the stuff that they got from Egypt. And probably the stuff that they had before when they left. She was also able to do this in Genesis chapter 20. Almost 10 more chapters later, she's still able to do it. So at the end, even though King Abimelech found out that he was lying, he still gave all that, still gave them stuff. Also, Sarah controlled her relationship with Moses. One, she told Moses to marry and impregnate Hagar, which was Sarah's maid, once she was pregnant. Sarah didn't like her attitude. It says that Sarah was despised in Hagar's eyes, and so Sarah sent her away. This is Genesis 16. Then we get to verse 6. Abram says, the maid is in your hand, do with her as you please. So again, Sarah was in control. What she said went. When we get to chapter 21, verses 9 through 11, Hagar's son was mocking, bullying her son Isaac. And Sarah told Moses that she had to go. And even though it grieved Moses, not Moses, I'm sorry. I've been reading about Moses for so many chapters, I'm sorry. She told Abraham she needs to cast out this slave woman with her son. And I don't want her to be no hair. I don't want you to give her no money. Cast her out and don't give her nothing. Don't that sound eerily similar to Cinderella? Deprive her financially? Okay, because this is all Sarah Storm. She created this. This is a woman that was beautiful enough to generate wealth for her beauty 2 different times. But this is that energy she had for a situation that she created. She was in control of that situation. Verse 12, God told Abram to listen to Sarah. God even said, you know what? Man, I see how tough this is for you. She got all the bag. She got all the money. I mean, I guess you should just listen to her, bro. It's why, like, when you hear men say things, and there's another, a lot of these men with no edges and big bellies just have a whole lot to say about women on the internet. Sir, take off your hat. You got long dreads to your waist. Take that scarf off. Take it off. You want me to be natural, but you can't be natural. I've got videos with me being natural. I've these men always got to wear a hat. In every single video, you're wearing a hat. You're wearing a hat. You're talking about women and you're wearing a hat. Talking about weave, but you're wearing a hat. Sir, lead by example. Stop looking to women to be the leaders. Then we look at verse 14, right? Abraham gave water and bread to Hagar and Ishmael before sending them away, gave them no money from what Sarah wanted. What you should get out of this is beautiful women that commoditize their beauty. They'd be insecure just like anybody else. Insecurity doesn't affect a certain look. And just because a woman doesn't look like you think she might look, that doesn't mean she's insecure. Insecurity is a trait. It's a trait. And it's something money can't buy, because as soon as you get the money, what do? You cut your face up, you buy all the stuff you want so you can be beautiful. I don't have nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm just pointing out how important it is and why we need to value beauty. Also, from this chapter, we should realize women will use other women for their own personal gain. We also saw that with Leah and Rachel, where they gave their babes to Jacob because they were trying to both see how many children they can have. They were using them for children. I think I wrote that down in here next. Yes, Genesis chapter 29 and 30. Okay, so there's gave him a wife, so Leah was barren. And when you look through here and then you look at chapter 30, you see that these sisters were using their maids because there was a time period where neither one of them were conceiving. And so they gave Jacob their maids to have children to help one up each other. I have the most children. No, I have the most. These were women using other women for their personal gain. That's one reason why I know you're not going to like it if you're a woman, but I really don't like women in leadership positions. I don't like the idea of a woman leading anything, because a lot of times women will use their power to affect other women. I've seen it too many times at every job that I've had a female manager. I'm just telling you, it happens way more than it doesn't. Also, one thing that is so strange, how is everybody against Donald Trump all of a sudden? Like, I guess there was always a thing, but it's like they're trying to pick apart that he's arrogant, that he's rich and white. And it's like, in corporate America, when men are like Trump, you say he's arrogant and you say he's incompetent. Incompetent white men like Trump, they are salaried in corporate America. I don't know. I'm just a Southern black woman. I've had to work for a lot of men like that. With just saying what I notice. Saying what I notice. Okay, so then we get to Genesis chapter 26. This chapter details a very disturbing story about jealousy. There was a famine. Isaac became wealthier than the king. In verse 16, King Abimelech asked him to leave because he said, "You are becoming mightier than we are with all your increase." Isaac was a foreigner. The Philistines were so jealous. The Philistines envied him for being able to produce such an increase as a foreigner. So they began to cover the wells that Abraham built for him. So the wells, when you dig a well, that's your water source. They didn't have water. So, or they didn't have like running water. So you had to have a well so you can have water to drink, have water to cook with, have water to clean with. So covering a well, that's like trying to affect someone's life and well being. Don't we see this pattern? Depriving someone of using your emotions to deprive someone of something. Even King Abimelech did not settle this. He knew that the reason why he was experiencing so much trouble was because of jealousy. It's possible for a whole territory of people to hate one person to the point they have to ask him to leave. The leader has to ask them to leave. They don't ask the people to stop being jealous, to stop bothering this one person. They ask the one person to leave so they can restore peace. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. This is important to remember as a woman. Isolation is a tool to cause doubt. Every human does need human interaction to become a fully functioning person. Jealous people will attempt to cause isolation through ignoring you, or if ignoring you doesn't work, they'll try to affect you financially, physically, emotionally, affect you with rumors, complain about you. When you experience this type of behavior at work, church, family, social media, do not worry. Do not shrink yourself. Do not over explain. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work to be so sweet and to bare your soul and to let people see you don't think you're better than them. Use it as information. If you are in a situation where you are hated but you cannot leave, seek God first. Don't seek other people, especially an anonymous person that you can't see what their life looks like. Nobody is going to tell you their real life, including me. I'm going to show you the best version that I can because, well, I don't want anybody to clock me. I mean, just being honest, I don't want to bare my soul anymore. So, God is who you should seek. These scriptures are something you should hold on to so you can understand. There's a reason why they're there. There's a reason why all these people in a whole city, a whole territory, was so jealous of one person that the king had to ask them to leave. That should mean something to you. The fact that you see two instances of women in the Bible using other women for their benefit, don't dismiss that. Understand that that's part of there's a reason why that's written there. Another tidbit of advice: if you're in a situation where you are hated as a woman and you can't leave, one good thing that you should do, either play dumb or reduce the amount of information that you have to give. But seek God, seek God, seek God. If you have a messed up family, if you have problems with your mother, problems with a sister, I don't have that. I want to tell you that. I have a wonderful, loving family, which is why I sought to, when I was younger and I was doing dirt, I sought to always make sure nobody could find out because my family really did love me. So I'm not talking from that place, but I'm just telling you from what I've observed, you have plenty of women who age out of foster care, who then have no one. And the first thing it's going to be some man. A man will save you. But you're going to have to give up that kitty though. You're going to have to give it up if you want his protection. And sometimes you'll end up finding yourself in a messed up situation because you've done it. Maybe you're a single mother now, or you found yourself in another kind of another situation. And married women who have the seal, who I know like the championship, and you want the ring, I want the ring too. I want that seal too. I want to be able to take this one off. I do want a man's seal. I want his respect. I want his honor. I want to be married as well. I'm not, and there are no prospects right now. God is manifesting my prospects. And I also understand that I may not be married. I'm going to play the game as hard as I can because I still want it. But I don't want to be one of these women that's sitting around with a whole bunch of other women talking about, oh, I'm so glad we don't have a man. We travel the world. We don't have men. No. I want man to get the bug. I want a man to get the things off the top shelf. I want a man to check the doors at night when it's time to go to sleep. I want to sit on a man's lap. I want those things. So I'm going to try to play as hard as I can, look as good as I can to get it, but I understand I might not. This is encouragement for myself, and hopefully it can help someone else. I love you. You are beautiful, man or woman. You are beautiful and wonderfully created by God. I love you.